We've got a really exciting webinar today looking at our new energy toolkit, which is about how local authorities can navigate the energy system and that net zero energy transition. We've developed this in partnership with a range of UK 100 members and UK Power Networks customers to bring you something that we think will be really useful in your ongoing discussions and your strategies. So, before we get into the detail, just an important Zoom housekeeping. So this is a webinar, meaning that you should only see us and the panelists are going to be visible. There's a list of participants on the toolbar if you want to see who else is here. We've got a range of different people from councils from all across the country. We want this to be as interactive as possible, so please write your questions in the Q&A function and upvote, because the more upvotes a question has, the more likely it is that we'll have a chance to answer it. Please do use the chat box if you want to introduce yourselves or add any commentary as we go through. We welcome discussion, and we'll try and get round to as many of the different contributions as we can. We are recording this webinar series, and we're hoping to upload this alongside our toolkit on the UK 100 Knowledge Hub, so it will be public. So that's enough for the housekeeping today. We will have about 45 minutes to go through the session, and I'm going to keep us to time and on pace. So let's get going straight away. So the purpose of this session is about how we can look at the evolving policy landscape and how we can use the toolkit that we've developed to look at the greater role for local authorities in getting to net zero in the energy sector. Energy decarbonisation has been one of the biggest drivers of UK emission reductions in recent years, and that's mainly due to the phase out of coal-fired generation and the rise of gas and renewable. It currently accounts for around 14% of overall emissions in 2022. But we are in that energy revolution, and we're transitioning the energy system away from centralized fossil fuel plants to decentralized renewable energy sources, increasing that local generation, which means the role of local authorities will increase as we go through. Alongside the decarbonisation of heat and transport, we're going to see an increase in the electricity demand as gas boilers are replaced with heat pumps and electric vehicles replace petrol and diesel models. So how we square that circle is going to be quite a formidable challenge, but an exciting one with lots of opportunities alongside those challenges. What we can't have is a top-down approach to this transition. We need local authorities poised to be that crucial role, that catalyst in shaping that shared energy future that where communities benefit. And we know we're seeing a rise in local renewable projects and the change in the energy demand, that need for more green energy infrastructure like public electric vehicle charging point are going to be really crucial. And we know that you've really started to play your role in that transition. So it's not an easy thing for lots of councils who may not have stepped into this space in a considered way and want to grow that role into it. And many of you have come to us and some of the distribution companies and asked lots of questions and want to be able to be more involved. So, which is why we have collaborated with UK Power Networks to create this resource, which is available to all councils across the country for use in this transition. There are some practical steps that we've included in there that your council can take and how you can accelerate your net zero energy plans. And also some of the partners who are out there to be able to support you. So what's coming up? Well, unfortunately, we're not on track to meet our national climate change goals. And according to the Climate Change Commission, onshore wind farms need to double, offshore needs to grow by 3 times, and solar farms by 5 times. The new government has put a plan in place for ambitious energy generation and that transition to net zero net carbon emissions by 2030. Now that is going to be a considerable challenge, but again, an opportunity for investment into the grid, the generation, and how we get there. We've heard about Great British Energy, which is being set up with funding of around 8.3 billion. And they're looking at focusing on homegrown clean energy projects, which we will all be very well placed to take advantage of. So in addition to this, the new government moved very quickly in removing the ban on onshore wind, so communities and developers alike can begin to utilize the cheapest form of homegrown energy. Ofgem has a renewed focus on bottom-up regional planning with regional energy strategic planners, which are being set up across the countries. And we've seen DNOs and DSOs, more information about those later, taking on more strategic roles and partnership activities. So navigating that net zero energy transition, it's not just the policy landscape, but the whole energy system, as I said, which is changing, moving from, on the left here, the old world of centralized energy into that new world, which is going to be smart, localized energy grids. And more electric vehicles and less reliant on gas for heating and cooking is going to have an impact on the energy system. But that bidirectional flow of energy is going to need to be more flexible and responsive to our need. Luckily, we've got the technology to make that happen, and getting it at the scale we need is going to be an opportunity for us moving forward. So why we partnered to develop this toolkit. So we know that energy systems and energy work is challenging and can be complicated to navigate. And it's difficult to understand exactly where to start. And you've got a changing policy and system landscape where local authorities, as I said before, are going to be at the heart of that change. And what we want to do at UK 100 is to support our members to take advantage of this moment in time and these opportunities by giving you the tools, the resources, and that convening power to really accelerate your local climate action. And UK Power Networks know the energy system like the back of their hand, and their level of expertise and capacity and capability that they have as an organization is really important to the partners and the customers who they work with. So we felt it was a natural partnership to develop this toolkit with those practical steps and some case studies, links to other resources so that you can move forward on this journey. But also, we want to be there supporting you as best we can. So there are many stakeholders that will be able to support as well. That's not just UK 100 or UK Power Networks. There are other organizations in the sector, in this space, which we'll touch on. You may not fall within UK Power Networks' direct customer base. The grid is done by area, so there will be different companies which provide, but all the DSOs and DNOs want to be working with local authorities in that greater role as we transition. So what are some of the steps that councils can take at the moment? Well, here's a snapshot from the toolkit, and there's more detail as we go through in the toolkit, and some things that George and Lynn will pick up. But here's a snapshot of what we think is quite crucial on that pathway. So your energy plans are critical, and local area energy planning is something that we would like to see adopted far more frequently by councils across the country, as it is a really useful tool. We also want to see local authorities playing a lot more role in that electric vehicle transition. We've made some good progress already, but that needs to be scaled up further with the right frameworks and the right financial support from government. So I'm not going to go through all of these things that are here at the moment, but it is really useful to be thinking around what your council is doing on some of these steps, looking at some of the best practice we've highlighted and challenging yourselves to go further. And also involving your communities in that energy transition piece. What communities across the country don't need is things done to them, but they need to be brought in early, and they need to have control over what that looks like, so that we don't just repeat some of the mistakes that we've seen in some interventions in the past. So the need for strategic energy planning really pulls all of those things together. And I talked about local area energy plans, which are a really useful tool and a foundational document for you to build on as you go forward. So who can support you on the journey? So as I mentioned before, there are lots of different organizations. We will circulate the slides. I appreciate I'm going through quite complicated areas quite quickly. So there'll be a chance for you to digest some of these things. And in the toolkit, we cover in detail some of these different organizations. But from top to bottom, from all around the country, there are some significant organizations who are looking at different parts of the energy system and have some fantastic expertise and are developing some brilliant tools for local authorities across the country. So I'm just going to now hand over to Lynn McDonald, who's going to talk to you more about the work that the distribution companies do. Lynn.
Thank you so much, Chris. So as Chris shared, local government, including county, district, borough and combined authorities, are already playing a critical role in delivering net zero, with many already taking steps to develop their local area energy plans, or LEAPs. Certainly through planning, investment and leadership, local authorities are driving growth and decarbonisation across all corners of the UK that will help both meet their local and the national decarbonisation targets. And importantly, this gives their communities choice. Now, within those plans, in both planning and delivery, we as distribution companies are playing a key role to ensure that we support that development and delivery of those plans and projects. So, who are distribution companies? Well, we are responsible for the energy system that underpins the net zero transition. Each distribution company is responsible for a specific geographic area of the country. And there are two types of distribution companies. There's electricity and gas, both of which play an important role in that energy transition. Focusing down on electricity distribution companies, there are two types of entities. You have distribution network operators, DNOs. They are like A roads of the energy system, carrying electricity into your home or business, and they are responsible for keeping the lights on and facilitating connections to the distribution network. You then also have distribution system operators, DSOs. They are making sure that the network is ready for the transition to net zero. The net zero transition requires major transformative changes in how electricity is generated, stored, and used. And the system that moves that electricity around likewise must evolve. And the establishment of DSOs is exactly for that reason, to drive these changes, using flexibility, data, and digital services as a smart solution to complement new infrastructure to provide the network of the future at lowest cost and providing the right electricity capacity at the right time, at the right locations to meet your local needs. So I appreciate we're welcomed by local authorities across the UK. If you're unsure who your distribution company is, then please use the toolkit. You can find out who your local company is through a click of a button, and you can also find out who the exact team is in the DSO of that local area to get in contact with. Now, if you happen to be in London, South East and East of England, we as UK Per Networks are your local distribution company. And for your DSO point of contact, that's me and my team, the DSO local net zero team. And a bit more about us, just moving to the next slide. So at UK Per Networks Distribution System Operator, we were established last April, and we are very much passionate to put customer first as we shape the electricity system of the future, delivering outstanding service and facilitating your net zero plans. My team and I are here to support all 133 local authorities across our regions. But importantly, we're also here to work with peers across the country and across industry to drive better service and outcomes through standardisation. We are very much aware that we serve 28 local authorities of our 133, where they're served by more than one DSO. So importantly, with our industry partners, we're ensuring that we're doing the best service to make it as simple and straightforward as far as possible. We want to collaborate and work closely with local authorities to understand your needs and your net zero plans to ensure that we're evolving and expanding network capacity to meet those local energy plans that you have, such as the deployment of electric vehicles, the installation of solar panels on rooftops, and also low carbon heating solutions that you're taking into your local residents. And this is really important. Looking across the 133 local authorities that we have, 87% have a net zero ambition that's ahead of the 2050 national target. So collaboration between us and local authorities and organisations like UQ 100 are so important. We want to work with you. We want to understand and ensure that we have robust forecasts about where, when, and how to focus our investment to support your plans and deliver those plans with you. And to assist this collaboration, we have set my team, which is dedicated to local authorities, to support you through tailored service. And we can certainly see that there's a momentum in local area energy plans across the regions that we serve. This year, 53 local authorities, so about 40% of our customer base, has already begun developing their local area energy plans. Now, to give that comparison, back in 22, we only had 22 local authorities starting out on that journey. So in 2 years, we've had more than double the number of our customers starting to develop their local air energy plans, and we've been by side with them each step of the way. And we as industry, and also as the UK Power Networks distribution system operator, are very much here ready to support local authorities and meet your local and national net zero ambitions. We have a range of services available, and I continuously want to hear from you of what you need so we can respond to those. And that's exactly why we're here today. And I'll pass over to George to highlight how we've come about this UK 100 collaboration and also launched this toolkit together.
Thank you, Lynn. So local authorities have been saying to us that they would like to have dedicated, tailored support from UK Power Networks where they can reach out for help. We have listened to you and established the DSO Local Net Zero team back in 2023. A team comprised of highly experienced individuals in the energy field who is working with each one of the 133 local authorities that we serve, providing a 3-tier support service. If you are under our cover area, you can easily book a one-to-one session, 30 minutes with our team under the Your Local Net Zero Hub website, or email us on the email shown on this slide. Local authorities has also been saying to us that they would like to have access to simple to use data for the net zero planning. We have listened to you and created the Leap Open Data page, a page with more than 160 datasets, both from UK Power Networks as well as external resources, organized into themes, accompanied with case studies, easy to listen on the go podcast, as well as video tutorials that can help you apply easily and effectively all these datasets into your planning. Local authorities have also been saying to us that they lack technical expertise, highlighting that a planning tool will substantially help you. We have listened once again and created the Your Local Zero Hub, a place where you can find resources to help you get started, understand the net zero basics, review case studies, as well as get access to a free online geospatial energy planning tool open to all 133 local authorities that we serve. In this tool, you can visualize data, create project and scenarios, again, budget and target, as well as engage with other stakeholders. If you are interested in learning more about what our team is doing and keep up to date with all the new services that are coming up and we're bringing to you, you can easily sign up to our newsletter by using the link in this slide, sending us an email at the above email address, or just dropping us your email address in the chat here. Moving into the next slide, I would like to explain why we have created this toolkit in collaboration with UK 100. As you understand already, our team is here to support and help you on your net zero journey, and we offer services and tools that you have indicated to us that you need. Under this aspect, we'll listen once again, giving you clear messaging that you would like to have a toolkit to address key questions as to how the energy system works. What is a local energy plan? Where you can start and as well find case studies of all the other local authorities to inspire you. This is the reason that we have created this toolkit in collaboration with UK 100, and we envisage to help local authorities across the UK to achieve their net zero targets and seize the opportunities arising. I would like now to hand over back to Chris to explain you how the toolkit can help you and follow up with our Q&A section.
Thank you very much, George and Lynn. That was an excellent overview of how distribution companies work across the UK and the offer that UK Power Networks has for its customers. I would encourage all councils to get in touch with their teams across the UK and start that conversation, because I'm sure that they'll be very excited to hear from you and hear about your council's journey. So coming to the end of the presentations and the formal bit of the launch of the toolkit, I just wanted to reinforce why you should read this toolkit. It explains what the energy system is and how it is changing. It will take you through the steps that you can take to shape this transition in your area. It will explain who the key stakeholders are, and like your distribution companies, and how they can help you. And lastly, it also discusses the question on everyone's mind about how is this all going to be paid for. So thank you very much for your time and listening to us as we launch our toolkit. And we're going to now head into the Q&A. So I'm going to virtually welcome back my other two panelists. So the chats and the Q&As are sort of trickling in. So you've got an opportunity to add more as you go through and listen to some of the discussion that we'll be having. This really is your opportunity to ask us anything that you would like about the energy transition, things that are in the toolkit or local authorities' role. There are no silly questions. This is a really complicated area, and we're very up for trying to demystify it as much as we can. So first up, I'm going to go to our first question, which is from Gavin. He says, what role do you see for independent distribution network operators, IDNOs, in working with both DNO and DSOs and local authorities? All these acronyms, there will be a quiz at the end of it. Given that they are connecting over 80% of new houses to the grid and are playing an increasing role in connecting generation at higher levels as well. So obviously an important role. Council should be building their relationships with them through planning and the infrastructure teams, working with them on LEAPs, local area energy plans, and partnerships to unlock some of that sustainable growth. We at UK 100 are keen to know more, especially any practical case studies where it's working well and the challenges on both sides. But perhaps I'm going to bring in George or Lynn just to give a little bit of their perspective on answering that question as well.
No, thank you so much for the question. No, certainly independent distribution network operators, IDNOs, also play an important role in the sort of UK's energy landscape. And certainly we as the UK Power Networks distribution system operator are collaborating with them. And certainly at the Energy Networks Association, it's like a trade group for industry. So that's where you've got the electricity, gas, the regulator, and that includes these independent distribution network operators. We come together, we share best practice, we share customer needs and look at new solutions together. So certainly where we see their key role is an industry partnership, but also as UK Power Networks DSO, we see independent distribution network operators as customers because they also connect off our network as well. So I think certainly, as Chris highlighted at the start, we've got a very positively colourful energy system made up of many stakeholders. And together as industry, we want to make this as really simple as possible to make sure that together we facilitate your plans. And actually, not only are we industry peers, we actually provide services to each other. So we can ensure that we can get electric vehicles moving, solar panels on rooftops, and also heat pumps and heat networks across the system so that houses and individuals can basically choose green choices to get onto that electric bus, get that other sort of net zero carbon choices in every day when they wake up.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, we're going to move on to another question. So the chat has now come alive. You've all woken up on this Thursday afternoon. The coffee has kicked in. So Sarah Hassan, Oxfordshire cuts across 3 DSO DNO areas: SSEN, UK Power Networks, and NGED. That makes DSO engagement very resource intensive. We've set up a combined working steering group with all DNOs and other key strategic partners. We're delighted to hear that UK Power Networks, NGED and SSEN are now talking to develop more joined up approach to support local authorities in mixed areas. How could this look like? So this is a really good question. Local government is used to working with different partners themselves. There's different levels within local government, as people on the panel will know. So how are companies like UK Power Networks going to be working to sort of cross those boundaries where some local authorities work? Lynn and George.
I'll come in first, and I'll then pass for George for some examples. So I think, as I covered, we serve 133 local authorities, and 28 of those are served by more than one DSO, like the example in Oxfordshire, where we have both ourselves, UK Power Networks DSO, also SSEN and NGED. So it always starts first from the first place of building relationship and rapport. So it's getting the right team and individuals around that table. So we all meet up jointly with our local authority on a regular basis. And also we recognise that in spatial planning, developing your plans, that data and digital services play an important part. At this point in time, both ourselves as UK Power Networks, SSN and NGED are all working with a digital provider, Advanced Infrastructure. And within that, we're looking at how we can enhance those services. We make it really easy for that local authority, how they get provided that service to plan their network. So they don't have to have any concern or inconvenience of how they start to plan their projects. So we as UK Power Networks, NGED and SSEN have actually established a working group together where we're going to be meeting regularly to share some of the data and digital insights that we each have from our customers, and also look at new solutions. So my team's worked really hard to look at the requirements, listening to local authorities shared by more than one DSO of what they want. And that's then something that we're working with our industry peers of how we can enhance and evolve that digital platform to make sure that that customer journey for them is really simple and easy. And I don't know, George, if you want to also give some example of what we've been doing with our colleagues, the Greater London Authority and London Councils, where we've got 33 London boroughs, if you include the City of London, where they've been undertaking their sub-regional local area energy plans, which was one of the case studies in the toolkit, led by Molly Strauss and her team. And certainly in West London, you've got ourselves and SSEN. So I don't know, George, if you want to give a bit more around the digital services.
Of course, yeah. So it is indeed the case where many local authorities are served by different DNOs, DSOs, and we always take the approach to work together, and we welcome this type of collaboration. We have been a long period working with other DNOs and DNOs through our ENA collaboration with workshops and ways to move strategically all together in the common goal of serving the local authorities. And as Lynn mentioned, through the GLA and London Council's collaboration, we are working closely both as UK Power Network and SSEN on how to achieve their common goals. Again, in there, as Oxfordshire, there are close collaboration between the two companies, and we are welcoming other DNOs, DSOs on building tools, building resources that can help local authorities having consistency across both companies.
Thank you very much, George and Lynn, and thank you, Sarah, for a really, really good question there. Okay, moving on to the third question. I'm going to try and speed up so we can get through as many of these as possible. So third question from John: what is the most effective action a council can take in order to help move to net zero? Well, I feel like we could do a webinar just on that, John, but what we would say is that it's really important that you have a target as a council, you have a delivery plan behind that target. A target without a strategy and milestones is not really worth anything. So we need to make sure that you've got something that's got that cultural buy-in as an organization as well. 80% of influence of carbon emissions in this country can be influenced by local authorities in some shape or form. So that is a significant leadership and convening role that you have as a local authority. So it's really important that you use that platform. You need to make sure you're looking at scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions, and also have a look at what the kind of sectors are that need decarbonising. So transport, housing and the way we heat our homes, energy. These are all things where a council needs to have plans to support that journey behind it. So unfortunately, there's no silver bullet. There's not one thing I can say, go back to your authorities and do this thing. But this is going to be multi-year, multi-decade action that we need to do collaboratively and using our leadership role to be able to get there. I will give George and Lynn a free pass on that question, unless there's something that that I've missed that they think would be useful for councils to do on that.
I would just add, because you described it nicely, Chris, I would just say it's critical to engage with the key stakeholders in your area. It's very critical to start early on, and that can be your DNO, your DSO, your gas operator, your local resident and businesses. So it's really important to hear what the local stakeholders are saying and how they can support you with tools and resources. So understand the needs and go and speak to local key stakeholders, how they can support you on that journey.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, John. Okay, we're going to try and get through the last two questions that we've had put to us as best we can. Ali Gordon-Creed, is there a strategic step-by-step process for community energy hub startup process? Projects even. So we've got some key contacts in Community Energy UK and Community Energy South, really good organizations that I know UK Power Networks has a relationship with, and we've also worked with and are working with. So encourage you to look at some of the tools and guidance that they've put together. Their information is within the toolkit, so, and there's some links within there, as well as some practical case studies. So I'll move us on. Ria. Local area energy plans seem very similar to general decarbonisation strategies. What is the difference between the two? And what would be the difference to the distribution companies? George and Lynn, I'll let you go first.
No, it's a great question, and this is something that's been asked, and also through the development of local energy plans. Certainly what we're observing from the local authorities within our footprint, certainly there's local plans that they must develop, and also EV strategies that they must publish and also engage with their local utilities. What we're finding, how local authorities are now talking and describing their local area energy plans, is they see that as almost like an umbrella envelope setting the direction and steer of that sort of what, where, when and how. And the strategy obviously sets that direction. The local energy plan sets out then the more detailed travel of direction, and then they have some specific net zero pipeline projects that then highlights actually how they're going to deliver work packages physically in the ground, so they then can articulate that to us, a local utility, and also to public and private investment to make those business cases. So I'd probably describe very simply, a local area energy plan brings together all the interesting ambitions and delivery plans that you have between now and long term through to your ambition out to 2050. And I think the important thing here is to make sure that the plans all hang together. And I think that's certainly what we've observed with the local authorities that have already embarked on their local area energy plan. They've really deliberately tried to articulate and bring together all the data across many different departments of their council. So that's looking at where they're decarbonising their own council operations, so looking at their own fleet management, all to where they're trying to deploy public EV charging through the use of the government Levi fund. And that's where they're collecting that data, setting that out, and then being very clear which ones are just in the consideration ambition modes and those that have more likely deliverability and funding in place at the moment. So they can describe what's definitely set in stone, which projects are strategic, and those that they would like to do, but they yet don't know maybe specifically how that will come forward. So yes, a local energy plan is a collection of data and plans, and I'd certainly see the importance thing is making sure it's one view rather than disparate views.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the Q&A. I know there's one or two questions we haven't been able to get around to, but hopefully we can pick some of the answers up in the chat. I'm just going to finish, just to ask my panel, just to put you on the spot. If there's one thing, apart from download and read the toolkit, there's one thing you think it would be really useful for people on this webinar to go back to their local authorities and do, what would that be?
I think my overarching ask is please engage with your local distribution system operator. It's so important, so please get in touch as early as possible. We're here to help.
I would have to echo that, Chris. It's because, as we said earlier, it's one of the most critical steps. Engage with your key stakeholders, and a very good starting point is your local distribution system operator, because they are providing, and we are providing, the tools to help you start or progress your current plans.
Fantastic. They're both speaking with one voice and saying the same thing, so you know it's an important thing to do. So we would encourage you to go and engage, to quote George. So moving on to, we're coming to the end of our session. Just wanted to flag a few important events that we've got coming up. We're launching our research next week on how climate action and devolution should be absolutely entwined, and what the government needs to include in the next range of legislation that's coming through Parliament. We have our Clean Energy Summit on the 15th of October. Invites have already gone out to leaders and stakeholders across the country, but more details are available on the website. We have a leaders dinner at the LGA conference on the 22nd of September in Harrogate, so we hope you join us for that. We're supporting Calderdale Council's Net Zero Conference on the 1st of November, where they will be launching one of many things, but their local area energy plan and the action that they've done as a council that's award-winning in its journey for net zero. All of these details can be found on our events page on our website. So if you didn't write down those quick enough, it's all available there. Lastly, just a huge thank you for you all for coming to hear the webinar today and to hear about the toolkit, but a special thank you to UK Power Networks for their support in developing this really unique and impactful tool. And a special thank you to our Research and Insights Manager, Tanisha, who's led on the development of this toolkit, and one of our resident energy experts at UK 100, Adrian Ross, for his help in pulling together quite a complicated area and bringing it to fruition. Thank you again for joining us all today. I hope you find this tool useful. I hope to see you at one of our many events coming up, and I wish you well as you navigate your net zero energy transition. Have a good afternoon.